day. Today we will be learning about subtracting integers. Our essential question is, how do you subtract integers? We have two vocabulary terms, difference, which is the answer to a subtraction problem, and again, zero pair. And remember, when we add a positive 1 plus a negative 1, the answer is 0. You see, these two are the additive inverse. For our first example, we are going to use counters to model the problem 6 minus negative 2. So as you can see here, we have 6 yellow counters or 6 positive counters. So you might be thinking, well, how can you take 2 red counters away from 6 yellow counters? We don't have any red ones to take away. So how do we do that without changing the value of what we have here? We have to put in 0 pairs. So I'm going to put in 2 positive counters. And then I'm going to put in 2 negative counters. And we see that these are 0 pairs because 1 positive and 1 negative equals 0. So I have not changed the value to my problem, although I've added more counters. Now, with what we see here, I can successfully take away negative 2. So when I take away these 2, I'm left with everything here, which is the 6 that I started with and 2 more positives, which leaves me with positive 8. So that is one way we can show subtraction with integers using the counters. The second way, which tends to be what more people lean to, is simply subtracting by adding the opposite. So thinking about the opposite of positive 1 is negative 1. The opposite of positive 4 is negative 4. So for our first example, we have negative 2 minus negative 6. So to start, my very first step is going to be to rewrite my problem. My first number does not change, so negative 2. So now I'm going to add the opposite. So I'm going to go from subtraction to addition, and then I'm going to look closely at the second integer. So my integer is negative 6, so I need to determine, well, what is the opposite of negative 6? And that is positive 6. So now my problem is negative 2 plus 6. So now I'm going to refer to the absolute value, and which of these two numbers has the greater absolute value? That is 6, and 6 is positive. So I know my answer is going to be a positive, and I have 4 more positives than I do negatives. So the sum is positive 4. Let's try this again. Now we have 4 minus negative 3. Once again, I'm going to subtract by adding the opposite. So I'm going to start with the first integer, which is a positive 4. To add, I need to change the sign. And now I'm going to add the opposite of negative 3, which is a positive 3. So really, my problem is 4 plus 3, which is 7. Now what I'd like you to do is try these 4 on your own, and I encourage you to try either using the example where we used counters, or try these 4 problems where you are going to subtract by adding the opposite. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to ask, email, mark them down, whatever you need to do, and I will see you in class tomorrow.